Good evening, buenas noches, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of all of us at the locally based, independently owned bookstore, Books and Books in Miami, Florida, and in partnership with Miami Book Fair, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a virtual evening with Spencer Ostrander, Paul Auster, Sherma Chambers, and Kareem Eusebe to discuss Long Live King Kobe, published by our friends at Z Books. Spencer Ostrander is a photographer based in Brooklyn. His work is deeply informed by a desire to observe closely, to forge human connections, and to intimately understand the world around him. He has recently completed two other books, Times Square in the Rain and Bloodbath Nation, in collaboration with Paul Auster. Paul Auster is the author of Burning Boy, 4321, Sunset Park, Winter Journal, The Invention of Solitude, New York Trilogy, and many other works. In 2006, he was awarded the Prince of Asturias Prize for Literature. He's a member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and his work has been translated into more than 40 languages. Sherma Chambers was born on the island of St. Vincent. She immigrated to the United States at the age of 15 and has lived in Brooklyn ever since. Sherma is the mother of three sons, Shamari, age 29, Shane, age 24, and Tyler, who was murdered at age 21 on December 23, 2020. Following Tyler's death, she became the founder and director of Long Live King Kobe, a New York State nonprofit organization. The goals of the organization are to support the families and friends of victims of violence and to fund outreach programs for troubled youth. We're also joined tonight by Kareem Eusebe, who is Sherma and Tyler's cousin. Remember that throughout the evening's broadcast, you can post your questions in the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of the screen. And we thank you for ordering your copy of Long Live King Kobe from Books and Books and supporting indie bookstores. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guests to the virtual stage. Hello.
Hello, Christina.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. All right. Well, I'm the one identified as Paul Auster, and I thought, since my role in the book, this is a book that was largely created by Spencer Ostrander, sitting to my right. He is the photographer. He is the person who did all the interviews, and it was his idea to do this. On the other hand, when he first showed me photographs of what he had done, I was the one who encouraged him to make a book out of it. I thought it was so powerful, so important, so necessary for what we're all living through today as Americans, that this was a book that had to be done. I participated in the sense that I wrote a preface or an introduction, and I wrote little texts accompanying the photographs that are the main focus of the book. But I just want to start with the first paragraph of the introduction I wrote, just to set the scene. It was a weird and senseless crime. A sudden, unprovoked burst of violence on a tranquil street in a tranquil Brooklyn neighborhood on the eve of Christmas Eve. And 2 minutes after the attack began, 21-year-old Tyler Kobe Nichols collapsed onto the sidewalk with 3 knife wounds in the front of his torso and 1 in the back. He died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. So the first question, I want to turn to Sherma and ask her what happened that night, and just try to describe the events that took place.
So that night, good day, everyone. That night, I was at work, and I received a phone call from my nephew, Chris, screaming on the phone. And he's like, Auntie, come home. Something happened to Ty. And I said, what happened to Ty? And then in the background, I just heard all the commotion. of everyone talking. And then I heard Kareem screaming in the background, Ty, Ty, don't leave, don't leave. So right away, I knew that something bad had happened. And Tyler was not conscious. And then Sly, my other half, he got on the phone and he said to me, something happened to Ty. He's going in the ambulance. I'm sending the boys for you. At that time, I just lost it. And from what I was gathering, basically, my little boy was in trouble. So a coworker of mine dropped me to the hospital where I met Kareem and Chris, and we went over to another hospital, a Methodist hospital, because that's where they took him. And once we got there, before we even got there, Shamari called, because Shamari went in the ambulance with Ty. Shamari called and said Ty did not make it. And all I kept telling them is, don't tell me my baby boy is gone. Don't tell me that. Tell me my baby boy is gone. On arriving at the hospital, they sent us in the chapel and we waited there for the doctors to come. And that's when they came and told us he didn't make it. And I asked if I can see him. And then that's when they told me his body was evidence. And I could not see him. So that's when I headed back home. And as I'm heading home, I realized that my son was murdered. He didn't just die because there was a crime scene down the block from my house.
Right. Now, Kareem, when did you come on the scene? I know you were there at the place where Tyler was picked up by the ambulance. Yes.
Yeah. It's hard every time we talk about it. It's like a time machine.
I'm trying to be as restrained as possible so we can get the story out.
It's okay.
Tough. It's very tough. Yeah. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what's important is I would like to just back up for a second. So when a lot of people and those who are within the audience, when you hear something like this, many questions and assumptions arise. So just to give some insight into, I'm going to get to the question, Paul, but just to get an insight into who Tyler was and how this happened. So what's most important to say is Tyler is like the favorite of the family, of a very close, very, very, very close family. We all live in one house, essentially. And Tyler never leaves the house, like, for any reason. And if he did, it was with his dog, his pit bull, was very protective. And it was for a little bit of a time, a little bit of a moment. And we were all home preparing for Christmas. And Tyler just wanted to get a freshen up and go get a haircut for his friend's birthday, which is also around Christmas. So we were downstairs in the living room, and Tyler passed me and said he's gonna go get a haircut. And I said, Tyler, you need to join me in this martial arts class. And he rubbed his hands together and says, nah, cuz it's all about the fundamentals. And that was I didn't know that cute interaction would have been our last words to each other. So moments later, we were watching something on YouTube, and then the door bust open, and his girlfriend of 10 years screaming, Tyler is leaking up the block. So what occurred is the brothers walking home from a haircut, and these guys, two came out of a car for no reason and engaged with Shane and Tyler. And then Tyler, seeing Shane get attacked, went to defend. And Tyler literally, and I don't think we emphasize on this enough, died saving his brother, because when he was first stabbed in the back, he had to assess whether he was going to go help his brother, who was getting beat up by now 5 people instead of 2. They called more people for some reason. He had to assess whether he's going to deal with his wound or jump in and save his brother. And he jumped in to save his brother, where too much commotion was happening, and the guy stabbed him 3 more times in the front. So where I came in to get back to the question, Paul, is Ashley screams and opens the door and says, "Kareem, Tyler's bleeding up the block." Me, Sly, Shamari, Chris, we all go running up the street, and Tyler's leaning on the wall and looking, trying to look. Well, he looked at all of us briefly, and I just remember saying he's bleeding. I took off my shirt, looked for the wounds, and tried to pressure the wounds. And as Auntie Sherma described, she heard me in the background screaming. So I was screaming in his face, holding the back of his neck, um, trying to keep his soul there. You know, it's me. I'm here. We're here. And it was at that moment where his eyes rolled, and I put my ears by his lungs and listened to fluid entering his lungs. And the ambulance then arrived. So it was, our family is not into any gang activity, or some people hearing this assume, that Tyler was involved in something of some sort. And I can assure you more than not often, he had nothing to do with anything like that. He was literally just going to get a haircut. And due to the proximity of, this dense society in New York, and not being able to know when demons are crossing your path, this happened to our family. So yeah, that's basically where I came into play. So we can easily go down a very slippery slope to depression, anger, um, and all the other feelings that come across. But we are working more tightly as a family, and we form the foundation to put that energy into the community rather than the obvious ways.
Well, I just want to quote what you said to Spencer in the book, and I quoted it in the introduction that I wrote. As I said, his older cousin Kareem went so far as to describe him as, quote, a musician, a therapist, an athlete, an alleviator, and a role model. And some weeks later, during his conversation with Ostrander, he called Tyler the sharpest edge of the family, and that he absorbed everything.
Yeah.
Almost astonished, he marveled at his cousin's sharp, analytical mind and the surge of inner growth that seemed to have transformed him in recent months. Imagine a flower blooming before your eyes, you said. And then someone comes along one day and clips the root from below. These are very powerful words, Kareem. And I think it captures something about what you all felt about your beloved Tyler, who was, I never met him, but an extraordinary soul, it seems to me. And
Yeah.
now let me turn to Spencer and to explain how he got involved in all this and how we have all become close friends now, and we're linked forever.
Yeah.
And Spencer, you take the floor.
Well, I was working on a book with Paul for 2.5 years prior on gun violence in America. That book's called Bloodbath Nation. It comes out in January. And at that time, I had wanted to interview families of the dead and the deceased and victims of violence. So I started attending funeral homes. And I went to a funeral home on January 8th, 2021. And the funeral director said, come back on Sunday. There's a funeral of a 21-year-old who was shot. And if you come, I'll introduce you to the mother, and with her permission, you can photograph the funeral. And so I arrive at this funeral on that Sunday, and I'm introduced with Sherma, and there was something about her, and I grabbed her, and we embraced. I took photos of the funeral. I went home and I learned that Tyler, in fact, was not shot. He was stabbed. And so I didn't know what to do because it didn't fit into the book. A week later, I received a phone call from Sherma, and she said, "You still want to talk about Tyler?" And having met her and having looked in her eyes, I said yes. I went over, and I was welcomed into this family. At the time, I didn't know where it would go, but I kept talking with everybody in the family. And at the time, I was living with my wife, Sophie, staying at Paul and Siri's house. And I came back after the first meeting and I showed Sophie, Siri, and Paul all the photos that I'd taken. And we all started crying around the table and said, "You should do a book." And over the next 5 months, Sherma would introduce me to different family and friends. And it started to be this portrait of Tyler's life through the people around him. And in a way, it was an accident. But what's important is that when the press or media covers tragedies, they usually focus on the victims themselves, but seldom do they ever focus on the people that are forced to have to live with that trauma. And with the collaboration of Sherma and Tyler's family, everybody opened up and everybody wanted to talk. And that coincided with Sherma starting Long Live King Kobe Foundation. And so we're able to make the book a fundraiser for her organization. And all the proceeds of the sale of the book go to Long Live King Kobe.
Well, I think the best description of the book, perhaps, is on the flap, which I wrote because the one the publisher had sent was not good. And I simply described the book this way. This book is an intimate portrait of grief, a chronicle that charts the devastation visited upon a large, multi-generational family in the wake of the senseless random murder of 21-year-old Tyler Kobe Nichols on December 23, 2020. With the cooperation and full participation of the Nichols Chambers family, photographer Spencer Ostrander was granted special privileged access to the household. Over the course of the next several months, he conducted one-on-one interviews with each member of that household, along with Tyler's closest friends, and in the natural light of these settings, compiled a large dossier of photographic portraits of each person involved in the story. The result is an astonishing ensemble of pictures and words that pierces through the cold statistics we used to talk about the wave of street violence spreading across the country, to focus on one person, one family, one lost life, and transform the numbers into vivid, aching human reality. The authors have entitled the book Long Live King Kobe in honor of the foundation that has been established by Tyler Nichols' mother, Sherma Chambers, whose mission is to combat street violence with compassionate, peaceful initiatives and to offer support to the families of victims. And all proceeds from the book will be donated to her cause. And that brings us, I suppose, to where we are now and what's going on, Sherma. And I know it's been the cause of your life. It's taken over a great deal of your time. And Kareem has been your right-hand man and throughout all this. The two of you have made all this happen. And so please tell us both, what's happening so the audience will know.
So I'm going to give you an example. We usually have our healing sessions and, we invite families out who does not have that platform because we're a very close-knit family, like Kareem said, and we heal with each other. So we started having our healing sessions, just inviting families out for them to have a time where they can speak about their loved ones, because that's part of my healing when I'm able to speak about Ty. But I just want to say we ventured out into having our first basketball tournament. Tyler was the basketball player, and I'm telling you, Tyler's girlfriend actually decided, let's have a basketball tournament in honor of Tyler. And we had no idea what we were doing, what we were creating. And 2 Saturdays ago, we had, I would say, over 100 young men on a basketball court on a Saturday in Brooklyn. It was about 95 degrees, but they came out in honor of Ty. And they played that tournament in the last game, they fought for that trophy. The last game went into double overtime. That's how much they wanted the trophy. And the young man who scored the last basket for the green team to win, he was so passionate. He kept screaming because he played with Tyler on Erasmus basketball team. He said, Ty, I told you I was going to take this trophy home for you. I told you, Ty, I told you. And he was so passionate and emotional. Tears came down my face. But I said, this is the legacy that this young man has left. And this is why I do what I do. We're still a new foundation. We're still learning and we're still growing. But I know that we have a long ways and we're not going to stop until we accomplish our goal. And just seeing those men, and I spoke to them. I took time out on the game and I spoke to them. They're so excited for next year tournament. They actually want to stop another tournament before the summer finishes just so that they can ball. But when I see all these young men and know that 90% of them either played basketball with Tyler or went to school with Tyler and came up to me and said, Mom, thank you. And that is what gives me.
You've also
strength.
organized sessions with grieving mothers and families, haven't you?
Yes, we have our
both here
sessions.
and in Florida. Yes.
Yes, in Florida, we actually went there to promote the book. And my girlfriend was having a pop-up, so we went there to promote the book and just get some exhibition and let people know what we're doing. Let them know about Long Live King Kobe. Because once I have breath in my body, Tyler's legacy is going to go on.
And Kareem, I know. Well, you're making it happen. And Kareem, I know you've been devoting a lot of your time to this as well. And of course, you have other things going on in your life, work, for example, and all the things that everyone else has. But on top of that, you're doing this. And what are your ideas and plans for the foundation going forward?
So first, I would like to kind of give the audience insight into why we're doing this, right? And then get into the plans there. So after the death of someone that is so close to you, basically, I kind of saw a lot of characteristics of myself that in Tyler that I purposefully did. I'm very close and affectionate with my family and the women in my family and everything. And Tyler was someone that held on to that characteristic and others as well. And always, he's my cousin, but my little brother. Cousin is just a word that is utilized to describe the family tree, but our connection was a brotherhood. So having someone stripped away from you of that caliber leaves a huge hole in your heart. And literally the way that we just decided to fill that void and direction, that fire that we have for Tyler is in this foundation and spreading the love that we have for this human being who was just now here with us. We're spreading it to the community because we were able to heal to a certain point, and this is a journey that we never. It's a scar essentially that is just on your face, to be honest. But we also realize the amount of people that, like Auntie Sherma said, do not have close families. Everyone is scattered all over the place. Something like this occurs, and you're stuck with the thoughts of what was, what is. It kind of dismantles reality for a lot of people. So plans going forward, Paul, is to continue to open portals of healing. And it's a very umbrella term, but what we've been doing in these healing sessions is literally opening an atmosphere for people to walk in an environment where someone knows and has been through what you have been through. So for those people in this world, not just Brooklyn, not just America, for those people in this world that have been attacked by demonic energies and people that just are not good people and have murdered or harmed or feel something along the lines of this and you need healing, our family has created a portal to come together and speak about these conversations. The reason we saw the need for this is that multiple counselors contacted us during our healing process, the raw onset of the healing process in 2021. And they were, for me personally, and I don't, maybe for some, for Auntie, like very textbook, and just none of it really applies and hits the core of how we get through this. So we've formed that mechanism and validated it within the family, and now feel and know a way to heal others. And we've done so in numerous ways for the people that come to the mother's loss, for people that are in Tyler's network as well, that come into the healing sessions and are stunned by a place where they can now just speak and let this go and then rejoice, which is a Caribbean custom. We rejoice the lives of the ones that we lost. So it's we plan to continue to do for the community and to pinpoint those people and double-edged sword for us as well, because this is the grieving process for us, and this is just how we're putting that energy forward. More community events, to answer the question directly.
Yeah.
A black party we had in session of understanding. We're getting out of Brooklyn now. We formed networks in Miami where we're going to come down for a tournament that's down there
In late September.
Yeah. So remember, the fire is fueled by someone that's not here anymore. So this is an eternal fire that is just going to continue until we are no more and beyond. So.
Oh, extraordinary. Thank you. Now, Spencer, turning back to you, I want to know a little more about how you got the idea. I know you showed the pictures to all of us, and we thought they were powerful, so powerful that you should make a book. But how did you make the book? How did you go about doing it, really?
It was a collaboration with everybody in the family. And so what I did is, after meeting Sherma and Kareem the first day I came over to the house, I had this really intense bond with her. And so she would set up sessions for me to interview and talk to people. And so I would meet them at their house or at Sherma's house, speak with them for 15 to 20 minutes with a tape recorder, and then I would photograph them. It was really important to me that everybody consented to the use of their images, as well as all of the things they said when they were quoted in the book. And everybody did. And so in that way, it's different than normal photojournalism, because the participants are active in that process.
Right. Now, you're at the start of one hopes, a long and very successful career. But what do you think this project, this immersion in the Chambers Nichols family has taught you as a photographer, but also as a human being? And how do you think it'll affect your work as you march forward into the rest of your life?
It's the sensitivities that I hold towards people have become a lot more increased. Sherma works in retail. I would go to her store all the time, and you don't know the pain that person has that's going off in their life. I run into Sly, Sherma's husband, on my walk. I run into Chris, Kareem's best friend, on 42nd Street. And you can pass people by every day in little interactions and not know that they're harboring such intense trauma. And you have to be compassionate with people, because you just don't know what's underneath. And Sherma, she organized this healing session on mother's loss. And there were 8 mothers who lost children there, speaking about what they've gone through. And witnessing something like that was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. And Sherma's doing the work and bringing people together. And it's needed because a lot of these people have never experienced it. Sherma and Kareem and the whole family never thought they would be activists against violence.
No. No, I mean it's important. I mean, Kareem mentioned the fact that the family has never been in any kind of trouble of any kind. I mean, it's a hardworking, dedicated, loving family. Just for the audience to know, since around 1990, I think it is, Sherma has owned a house in Brooklyn, and there are 15 members of the house that live there, 4 generations of the family.
Yes.
So your mother is there, and your grandchildren are there, and everybody in between, and it's quite an extraordinary thing. When we think about American families today, we think about, as Kareem was saying, everyone dispersed all over the country, but not your family. You're together, and the solidity of that community you formed is, I think, an extraordinary example to all of us about the importance of these ties. And I don't think you couldn't have gotten through this horrible time alone, each one of you. You needed one another. Yeah.
Yes. And this is why, Paul, I keep saying it, that the irony of me, the home that Tyler came from, and the atmosphere that we created here, because even though it's 15 of us here, my mom lives here. So every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every holiday, this is where we meet. My brothers, my sisters come over. This is where we meet, all the cousins, and we just hang out and be with each other. And Christmas was a very, very, very big holiday for us. Very. We did the pajamas. We did everything. Like December 23rd, my life just stopped right there. But I would say once Tyler passed, I feel like I have my third eye because I see things so different. And that's why I vowed to continue, because I started a community center in my home for my boys and their friends. And it continues still today. And that's why it's so important for me, for us to get up and running and be able to open up a community center so that these boys can come and have somewhere to come, for these families to be able to come and just be there, and we can have healing sessions there on a monthly basis instead of always having to go out and get a venue. I want that to be like the norm. People can come and know they have somewhere. I have a mother right now. She just lost her son. Yes, it wasn't through violence. He was a tragic bike accident. But she texted me the other day, and I was on the phone with her for a minute, just talking to her, because he just passed May 30th. It's only been 2 months, so I know exactly what she's going through. And I stayed on the phone with her that night, and we spoke, and she texted me and told me thank you, and I told her I'm here for her because I know what she's going through. Because even though our child move on, we still have that motherly instinct that we're worried about them. Even though they're gone, we're worried about them in the afterlife, because that motherly instinct does not cut off. It does not stop.
Listen, every human being needs other eyes fixed on them. People who will listen carefully with compassion and trying to understand. We shrivel up if we live alone and we don't have that contact, that interaction. Exactly. Now, Spencer mentioned to me just the other day that there seems to be some possibility that a building might be available for the community center. Is this true? Is this possibly going to happen?
We were looking, there's a church at the end of the block that I was looking at, because it's been like abandoned practically for a few months, like right in the beginning of COVID. So I reached out to the young lady who's in charge of it, but then I was informed that they found lead So that's why it's been like that. It's a Presbyterian church, and right now they're in the process of trying to get that cleaned up.
I
But
see.
once it's done, then I can have the opportunity to maybe lease it or, be able to utilize it as a community center for people to be able to come. But I'm not too sure what the length and process with that whole lead cleaning. Because
Well,
I really was very happy about it. And it's such a coincidence that the lady who's in charge of that church lost her son about 25 years ago. And she used to live on
amazing.
this block. Lost her son.
Amazing.
He was killed. So
Amazing.
again,
Well,
someone who relates.
Well, when you live long enough, you understand that everybody's walking around with some grief inside them. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. I think we should open it up to questions if there are any. I don't know, Christina, is there a way to see them? I can't make anything out.
Yes, we have a few questions.
Okay.
So
Would you like to throw them out at us?
I would, yes.
Thank you.
So someone is saying, I'm listening to what Spencer is saying and am reminded of the beautiful saying by whom I don't remember, namely, treat everyone as though their heart is breaking, because it probably is. So thank you for that comment. So for Sherma and Kareem, what have you learned from this experience? And how do you keep hope alive in the face of so much loss?
Yeah, so whoever asked that, thank you very much for the question. And I think the most prominent thing that I've learned from this experience is an increased sensitivity to our existence, to every single second that you're breathing, to every single beat of your heart, which should not only not be taken for granted, that's very cliche to say, but even on a deeper level, it's heightened our consciousness to life. It's heightened, it's heightened our ability to one connect. One second. Apologies, New York City. It's heightened our ability to not only connect with every human being, but to connect with someone that is going through, like we said, trauma. And Paul, you touched it there, that you never know what's going on behind somebody's eyes. Everybody's walking around with some grief. Not everyone has the mechanism to how to deal with it. And we didn't get a manual, but we put it together. And learning not only the sensitivity to life, but how to help others who's going through something like this is the only positive path forward. So those two enlightenments, I would say, is mine.
So for me, I would say any parent out there, make sure you let your kids know how you feel about them. Make sure they know that they're loved. And also, the little things don't matter. Like I said, I was a very big Christmas person, and I'm like, this is not done. We have to do this. We have to get. And December 23rd stopped me right in my track. And all that mattered to me at that point in time was my baby boy. So I'm just saying this to say, don't sweat the small things. Embrace the people you have around you. Let them know how you feel. Tomorrow is not promised. I know we say it all the time, but take it from someone who knows right now. My baby boy was taken from me. It took less than a minute for them to stab him. And within a half an hour, he was gone. So I need you guys to embrace who you have around you.
I'm getting a little emotional. This is really deep stuff. So can you talk a little bit about the portals of healing? Because I think that's really a very lovely idea.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? A portal.
So when we have our healing sessions, like for instance, the mother's loss, that came to me one night right before I went to bed. It came to me that I need to get, because within my circle, just my circle, small circle, I knew these 8 moms who lost their kids to violence, and I reached out to them. And one of my particular girlfriend, um, we spoke. I knew her son got killed, but I never knew that he took his own life. And before he took his life, he took his girlfriend's life because he was suffering from mental illness. And my girlfriend was going through it that week, and I called her up and I said, Cindy, would you be able to speak on Sunday? And she said, I don't know. And I said, even if you can't speak, just come out and be with us. And, when it was time for her to speak, she got up and she started speaking. And that's when I discovered what she was carrying, because she did not speak about this. Her mom, her sister said to me, thank you for having her. But that healing session, like Spencer said, it was so powerful because once she started speaking, she just released. And then all the moms went up and we just embraced her and we were in a circle. And that circle was so powerful because you can literally feel everyone letting her know we got her. We got you, because she's going around now thinking that her son also took the life of someone else's child. And where did she go wrong? And these are the kind of things that we have to embrace and help each other with so that she can know that it's not her fault. She suffered from mental illness.
Thank you. Especially there's been so much loss during the last 2 years.
Yes.
So especially now it becomes even more relevant and more meaningful. So there's a
So
question for Spencer. Spencer, how long did you work on the book? How many photographs did you take? And how did you choose those that eventually made it into the book?
I photographed for the book from January to May 2021. I don't know how many hundreds of photos I took. There was a lot of different trips to Tyler's gravesite and watching his friends play basketball and sitting with Tyler's beautiful niece Rain. All sorts of just intimate family moments. And it was a process of going through the text with Paul, where he transcribed or described the interviews, and then seeing what image we felt would bring that to life. And what it feels to me when I look at the photos is that nobody's posed. Everybody was just themselves and raw. And that photograph only could have been taken at that moment because people were going through it. And Tyler must have had such an incredible impact on everybody for them all to feel the need to open up and share their story and share their time with Tyler.
You see it in the eyes of all the people
Yeah.
who are in the photographs. You feel their emotions, and that's why I find it so extraordinary. And I listen. You could have put 100 other pictures in as well, but I think these are the ensemble is quite an extraordinary collection.
Paul,
Yeah.
I would say that at that time when Spencer was coming to the house, that was us in our most raw stage of grief,
Yes.
because it was literally just weeks. So we're still processing. And that's why Shane said what he said about the book, just putting together the last 5 months of his life after losing Ty.
That's right.
It
Well,
helped us. Book helped us through that. Creating that book helped us through our grief.
But it's extraordinary, Sherma, that you had the insight or the instincts or just the intuition to open the door to Spencer, of all the people in the world, because he is a remarkable person.
Paul, I say it and I say it over and over again. I hugged he looked at me and he said, I know you don't know me from anywhere, but can I give you a hug? And when Spencer hugged me, it was the most, I felt his embrace. I felt his love. I'm hugging a total stranger in the middle of a funeral home for my son with my emotions all over the place. And I felt at peace. And I'm not saying this because, we did a book together. I'm saying this because he literally touched my heart, and he still does it up to today. Every time I get a hug from Spencer, he cares. It's who he is.
Yeah.
It's who he is.
Yes.
He's the real deal. It's who he is.
And to combine that sensitivity with such an eye for how to take photographs, it really is something special.
Yeah. He know I don't like taking photographs.
Well, the photos of you are very, very beautiful, actually. Yes. Is there any more out there, Christina? Any more questions?
No more questions for now. But you're all so incredibly special. I mean, all of you. And I feel like I know Tyler better just from this, from this conversation. And I just thank you for joining us. If you're coming to Miami, be in touch, because my son is a basketball coach at Florida International University. So
I went there.
you
Kareem went.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, so So maybe I can connect you somehow with the team, with, just something.
Thank you.
And that's the beauty of how things happen when you put yourself out there,
Yes.
These
Yes.
wonderful connections. It looks like somebody dropped another comment or question. Let me see. Okay, just from saying thank you so much. I look forward to the book, and I live in Georgia. That's a comment.
Oh, thanks for the support. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for sharing yourself so openly. Spencer, thank you for your work. Sherma and Kareem, thank you for your work. Paul, thank you for always your wisdom and your insight.
Thank you very much.
Christina, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Our complete pleasure. On behalf of Books and Books, Miami Book Fair, thank you to everyone tonight. And remember, if you buy the book, the proceeds go straight to the foundation. So don't hesitate.
You can also visit the foundation and longliveKingKobe.org.
And on Instagram.
See what we're doing. See our healing sessions.
Thank you. We all need that. We all really need that. Anyway, and books are a great way to heal.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes, very important.
Okay, everyone. Good night, and thanks again.
Good night.
Thank you, Christina.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.